was District 12. I was in the Hunger Games. I escaped. PETA.
In 5 seconds, Katniss basically sums up what happened in Catching Fire. If I had known she was going to do that, I would have saved myself the trouble of watching it.
Catching Fire was probably the best installment of the series, though, so you're dumb is what I'm trying to say.
You can't be in here.
This is a closed set for the next Alien movie.
Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the movie cliche.
For an underground bunker used by a defeated society in a post-apocalyptic dystopian future, that hospital setup seems pretty sweet.
Defeated society? No. District 13 rebelled against the Capitol during the first rebellion and ended up signing a treaty with them, making them an independent nation. They were never defeated.
How the hell was she able to keep up with that pearl through all the events that happened between PETA giving it to her and right now?
I mean, the pearl is a really small object that could easily fit in a pocket, so she could have just tucked it away to keep it safe.
Finnick.
I wanted to go back for PETA and Joanna.
No time for useless pleasantries. We wasted all our dialogue time in the last movie.
Okay, but if they started out with pleasantries, you'd be sinning them for wasting time not discussing the plot.
This place is fucking massive, yet they expect me to believe that they were able to construct this underground facility in complete secrecy without one of President Stone's omniscient cameras getting wind of it?
Wow, you're not all that smart, are you? Anyway, the underground setup of District 13 was built after the first rebellion and a standoff with the Capitol. All you had to do was look that up. As for the cameras not knowing about it, that's dumb, because the Capitol already knows that District 13 exists. That's not a secret.
Capitol bombed the surface to rubble, but we're military, so we learn to survive down here.
For 75 fucking years. Presumably they stored up on vitamin D injections.
Why is this a sin? Are you sinning the fact that living underground would be difficult? Because that's kind of what the movie shows you itself.
How many people are living down there? A few thousand? How many people live in any of the districts? Is Pan Am home to only, 100,000 people?
Okay, so this sin is completely inconsequential. Why does any of that matter? Do you really think the movie would be better if they sat down and explained the populations of each district? That's stupid.
President Al McCoy.
Watching scores of young adult movie adaptations, I have been trained not to trust a woman in power, especially if they're played by a respected actress.
Yet again, here's a sin that isn't actually a sin. He's basically just saying, this movie has an untrustworthy character, therefore it's making a mistake.
Are you aware of what's happened?
Well, since she's been in her hospital room having nightmares since she got here, and you're the first person to explain anything, I would imagine the answer to this question is a resounding no.
Okay, but Katniss could still have been updated as to the state of the rebellion. There's no reason why Coin should just assume that she's unaware.
PETA was the one who was supposed to live.
But f***ing why, though? I'd hope that during the next 4 hours they're going to devote to telling the rest of this story. We would get some sort of explanation for why PETA is some sort of golden boy, but I'm sure we won't.
I already explained this in the last video, but I can give a shorter explanation now. Katniss doesn't value her own life very much after the atrocities of the Hunger Games in which she killed multiple people, and she values PETA's life more than her own.
Maybe you should have rescued the boy instead.
So he could teach everyone how to make themselves look like a tree? Because that's the only thing he brings to the table.
Well, PETA actually is half of the symbol for the rebellion. He was part of the defiance towards the government after the first movie.
Giant military planes remain unnoticed by the all-seeing Capitol.
It's not necessarily that they're undetected though, it's that the Capitol simply isn't attacking them at the moment because they're occupied with other matters. The movie gives us no indication of how much the Capitol is able to see of District 13.
Plutarch and Coin allow Katniss to visit District 12, basically by herself. Her only cover is Gale, whose only weapon is possibly being confused for Thor.
Coin allowed Katniss to return to District 12 because she wanted it to spark Katniss's hatred of the government in order to make her become more active in the revolution. As for her not having much protection, what's really the danger? District 12 has already been bombed, so the Capitol probably isn't going to have any surveillance there anymore.
Hunger Games predicts the fall of the Hall of Justice several years before Warner Brothers does it in real life.
Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the movie cliche.
How are they going to know to come back and get her? Did we agree on a set time? Or is she just going to flail about for a minute so they'll realize that she's ready to go?
So you say that it's a possibility that they could have set a time to pick her up, but then you sin it anyway? How can you undermine your own argument and then keep it in the final video?
Movie expects me to believe that everyone in District 12 was killed, except for this dog. If he survived, then there has to be some scared kid in a closet somewhere, right?
In the previous movie, Gale explained that he was working to evacuate everyone, and he was able to get some people out of the district, but the rest died in the firebombing. With that in mind, it's entirely plausible that there were no survivors amongst the people who didn't leave because they were not in secure locations, seeing as they were attempting to leave.
Did the Capitol fly over District 12, destroying all the buildings, get to the last two and say, okay, that's enough, let's go home? I'm glad they did, or Katniss's exploratory visit would have been severely cut short.
This detail is actually a pretty clever thing that you missed. The part of the district that the Capitol did not bomb is Victor's Village, where the winners of the Hunger Games live. This is symbolic of the Capitol's lasting impact on the broken district system.
Oh my god, it's the thing from the first movie that I forgot about until right now.
And that's a sin on you, not the movie.
This shot made me think my aspect ratio was broken.
Jeremy admits that he's an idiot.
Which is why all images of the Mockingjay are now forbidden.
Is a braid one of the most common hairstyles in world history, only associated with Katniss now?
Oh lordy, this is funny. In the previous movie, it was briefly explained that girls around the country were starting to wear their hair like Katniss in support of her. So even though it's a very common hairstyle, it's now becoming associated with Katniss. Think about the Hitler mustache. That was a very common style of facial hair before World War II, but after the war, nobody wanted to have it because it was associated with Adolf Hitler.
Smuggled him in.
Does it still count as smuggling if it's just in your bag and no one checks?
Yes, based on the dictionary definition of the word.
Is that supposed to be the Waltz of the Flowers from the Nutcracker? Because it is.
Okay, so I can't actually play the Waltz of the Flowers in this video because of copyright issues, but I can attest to the fact that the music from this movie and the music from the play are not the same and are only similar in the most minuscule ways.
Many who find this suspicious, to say the least. It seems as though she was part of a rebel plan.
And they would be right to think that. But what actually happened was the rebels just happened to luck the f*** out.
No, they did not luck out. They had a comprehensive plan that worked out. It was not luck.
Let's just take a second to call out the most uncomfortable collar I've ever seen. Maybe this is just a fancy way for the peacekeepers to hold a knife to his throat.
Oh my god, this is hilarious. You acknowledge that the collar looks like a blade being held to his throat, but you fail to understand the fact that it's symbolic?
We almost went extinct once before.
Was this near extinction worldwide? Do other nations still exist? Do the former Canada or Mexico at least have any stake in Pan Am's civil war?
It's never explained what happened to the rest of the world, but there are several possibilities. However, that doesn't matter because it has nothing to do with the plot of this movie.
Everyone needs to lay down their weapons immediately.
Why do you think he said that?
Katniss doesn't rightfully assume that he is being forced to say this because the Capitol is holding him prisoner, because that's obviously what is happening.
She does end up coming to that conclusion though. Just watch the movie, dude.
Even if we win this war, what happens to Peeta?
Did Peeta cast a spell on her or something? She went from being pretty blasé about Peeta in the first and most of the second movie to lamenting him in basically every scene so far in this movie.
Dude, she spent 2 death games surviving with him and a decent amount of time trying to get the entire country to stop rioting by faking a love story with him. She obviously does care about him.
What about Haymitch?
He's drying out in some facility a mile down.
The secret underground military bunker has a rehab.
Yes, and why is that a sin? It actually makes sense that this society would have one, because no matter where you go, alcoholism is always a potential problem.
You honestly believe one of these cave dwellers is going to take my place?
Weren't you all hot and bothered just seconds ago about not wanting to help? The movie is simply making these characters resist doing anything just enough to try and convince me that these scenes contain actual conflict.
Okay, but are you forgetting who this character is? Effie is crazy is what I'm saying.
There isn't a soul in this dungeon who knows the first thing about Katniss.
Except her mother, her sister, and her lifelong friend and hunting partner.
But you're kind of missing her point. Her family and friends know who she is back home, but Effie knows who she is in the field.
I get that Prim is a nurse, which explains her outfit, but why are the nurses the only ones that get to wear something that's not a janitor jumpsuit?
So you understand that Prim is a nurse, which explains her outfit, but then you question why she's wearing a different outfit than the rest? What the fuck?
The extraction of the victors held hostage in the capital. Peeta Millark.
How colossally stupid are these people? Can someone explain to them how being a prisoner works?
Okay, but they don't actually know Peeta in person, so it's kind of realistic that they might think he's turned against them. Besides, a lot of them might not even care, and they would be mad at him for not fighting back against his captors.
If Katniss Everdeen fails to fulfill her duties, the deal will be off.
Even though leadership knew this speech was happening, they didn't decide to put Katniss under protective custody even though they knew her conditions would piss everyone off.
Dude, are you trying to claim that the people would attack her just because they don't like her terms? Do you really think they're going to try to harm her despite the fact that she is literally the figurehead for the entire revolution?
They don't have any battle plans, but they do have a fashion lookbook.
The movie doesn't show you the battle plans, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. Anyway, the reason they spend so much time on the fashion is because Katniss is a symbol for the rebels.
There's not much of a prep team here in 13, but we will make you the best dressed rebel in history.
Well, yeah, that's the most important thing about a rebellion, the outfits.
Yet again, you're completely missing the point. The focus they place on fashion is meant to spur the rebels to fight harder through its symbolism, which ends up working.
Cinna's final touch.
Effie clearly lost the pin, was frantically looking for it, and tried to cover all that up by saying this, and pinning it on Katniss right before they start shooting.
What? A whole bunch of bullshit.
Okay, let's bring up the setting.
Good thing these people have a holodeck.
Jeremy makes a Star Trek reference that isn't a sin of the movie cliche.
People of Panem, we fight, we dare, we...
Does she know the line?
I know it,
Okay,
I know it, I'm sorry.
Jesus H. Christ, are we really spending time with this? I'm too fucking bored to make a witty observation at this point.
Witty? Who told you your observations were witty? They were clearly just blowing smoke up your ass. Also, Jeremy has the attention span of a toddler with ADHD cliche.
Snarky asshole slow clap cliche.
That's not a cliche, my guy.
We can't guarantee her safety.
Remember when you sent her to District 12 unarmed and pretty much all by herself? You were still wanting her to be the Mockingjay then, but clearly had very little concern for her safety.
As I already explained, there really wasn't a whole lot of risk in sending her to District 12 after it had already been decimated. Besides, they had a bodyguard for her and a nearby military aircraft just in case.
I've made you some surprises.
Because you know what was missing from this series? A scene with Q.
Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the movie cliche.
I couldn't just make you a fashion accessory.
I guess high-level computer hacking skills lend themselves to being an excellent boyer.
But computer hacking isn't the only skill Beatty has. He's a literal genius, so he obviously understands how bows work.
You've got that kind of weapon just lying around for any asshole to pick up at a moment's notice?
They're in a secure lab room in a military facility. I mean, what are you even asking for here? Do you want the weapons to be locked in a safe or some shit? This is a military lab, my man.